It is time for a bottle kill, and not just any bottle kill. We are going to get into the William Larue Weller from 2019, which I am going to put to rest today. And in doing so, I am going to give my final thoughts about it and answer the question that I received, which was, now that I have come to the end of this bottle, would I buy another, and how much would I be willing to pay for another bottle of this? So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right, let's see. Hello again, whiskey friends. Let's see how high this goes. It's probably going to be one of those deceptive, like, goes all the way to the top when it's a bottle kill type of a thing. No, that's a pretty respectable bottle kill right there. I think I aimed that one pretty well for today's session. So thank you for joining me today, everybody. So we do have a special review that I'm going to tie in to the typical Tuesday discussion, because I have gotten questions about this bottle as well. Not just questions about how much I'd be willing to pay if I were to get another and that type of thing, but also if I could do a review on it, since I've never done a review on the channel. And depending on where I score it, what things have scored higher than this particular bottle. So we're going to go through all of that in today's video. Now, with this bottle, I'm going to let this air out a little bit here, give that time to breathe as we get into it. But essentially, this is the 2019 edition. I have had it since 2019, got it in a lottery situation. We'll go over that in just a second. But, about September of last year, we celebrated the 1-year anniversary for the channel. And in doing so, I poured out a bunch of samples of this to share with people, also to share with Darrell and Kelsey Blind for that celebration. And in doing so, took it beyond its halfway point, in which case I made the decision that, hey, it is time to put this thing to rest over the course of the next couple months. So I shared out a bit more samples of it. I typically don't drink a lot of my own whiskey. All the bottles that I have, maybe I drink a fourth of. The rest of it gets shared. Now, one thing that I do, though, when it comes to finishing off a bottle, I do take a 2-ounce sample of every meaningful bottle that I've ever killed, and I go and I put it in my closet to be enjoyed. Who knows? Maybe a decade from now. I have no idea what I'll do with all these samples. At this point, I'm up to around 200, 250 of these samples of various bottles over the course of the last 7 years. It'll be a fun time capsule to get into, and the William Larue Weller is going into that. So let me pull up the stats on this particular bottle. We are going to go through a review of this one really quick in the typical format, and then I'll hit the other questions that I got about this bottle. So first off, the stats. Okay, I know with the price, I have it there at 100. Lottery situation 5 years ago. Not going to happen again. Honestly, now that I've poured this thing out, I really don't expect to ever get my hands on one. It probably won't be on the shelf again. Maybe I'll just fill this thing up with something else and just trick people that it's William Larue Weller. Something really like plain and bland. I don't know. I got to decide how to play that. Otherwise, it might turn into a candle or an olive oil bottle. We shall see. Now, the proof on this one is 128. For the longest time, I thought I had the 2018 version. This is actually the 2019 version, and it is not age stated anywhere on the bottle. At least I looked for it over and over and over again. I couldn't find anything. Online, I did find reference to it being 12 and a half years old, but just taking the word of the internet on that one, it is not on this bottle officially. So if you know for sure, let me know in the comments. So now we're going to go through the nose, the flavor notes, the palate, into the finish, and I'll let you know how I graded it. And then as we go into the end of this, we'll get into the other questions that I received, which was, how much would I be willing to spend on a bottle like this? And what bottles rated higher than the William Larue Weller? We're curious about that, and they know that we have all of these scores going on in the background. So thank you for joining me this far, everybody. Cheers. Oh, man. The nose is particularly delightful on this one. I mean, there is this oak on it. It's not It's not too oaky. It's almost like the perfect oak, especially for a weeder. It's kind of like omnipresent on there too. So I'm going to try to get around the oak. Fruit wise, the other things that stick out to me, it's a grape, almost like a grape soda. I get that more than cherry on the nose. We'll probably get into cherry later on in the experience where that Buffalo Trace cherry does come into play. But this is actually more grape soda for me. There's quite a bit of like a cereal on there too, almost like a corn flake is the type of cereal that I'm thinking of. What would it be? Special K, something like that. Bit of pepper. We already went over the oak. There's also a sweetness to it. It's a very light sweetness. It's almost like a powdered sugar or even like a whipped meringue type of a sweetness. There's other fruits as well that go beyond kind of that more grape soda, artificial grape flavoring into a stone fruit. I'd probably attribute it more to an apricot, a bit of a cream, a vanilla with that, and a little hint of chocolate too. So lots of flavors going on with the nose. Really, really love the nose. On the nose, giving that one 2 thumbs up. This is a particularly strong nose. Ah, let's go in for taste. I'm looking forward to this. Actually, I haven't had it for a while myself since that celebration pour at the 1 year anniversary. Mm. It's very interesting from a tasting perspective. Wow, that oak is hitting me hard right now. Ooh, that came in like an uppercut. Uh, Up front, uh, it's 128 proof. I mean, it's oily. The mouthfeel on it, though, I describe more as just this light creaminess than maybe that thick texture that I'm typically looking for in a whiskey that is this old and this high proof. So that's something that's very surprising up front is how light it feels. The initial flavors are cherry, vanilla, essentially a lot of cola. The oak, though, does take over. It starts running across the sides of the tongue. Um, and then that just picks up even further as we get into mid palate. Mid palate, that oak really, really takes over. I'm going to go in for another sip here. Man, that oak is really just beating me around today. Uh, Man, that grape picks up too. That's probably the main flavor that I keep getting every time I get behind the oak goes to the grape. The cherry is there with the grape as well, but they are two distinct flavors. And then there's just quite a bit of like this chocolate and richness that goes really well with the cherry, going into a cherry cordial almost type situation with that grape right next to it. That cola's there too. So it's mainly those type of notes. Um, on the palate, you know, it's not as flavorful as I would expect it to be initially. It does pick up though, it does ramp up. So that kind of saved it for me. Debated between giving it 1 thumb or 2 thumbs, but we'll keep today positive. We'll go 2 thumbs on the palate. Let's go into the finish. Mm. On the finish, fruit again is still kind of center stage with that cherry. I think the cherry takes over more than the grape. I think the grape really subsides by the finish. It is all about that cherry. There's a bit of pepperiness to it, bit of char there. The the other flavors are just really really good. I'm gonna call them generic though. I don't have like intricate flavor notes for this. I mean, it is just vanillas and caramels and chocolates. The chocolate in and of itself is a milk chocolate. That's what lasts the longest. That's what I'm getting right now. Still, is that milk chocolate kind of semi-sweet sensation, and that oak is strong too. I am getting the oak just everywhere all at once right now. I mean, not just on the finish, but on the sides of the tongue. It's still happening, even on the tip of my tongue. It is oak. Thus, I saw that 12.5 year age statement. I do wonder what the oldest whiskey is in this, because it does come across something that would be more like 14, 15. So it just makes me wonder what's going on there. Or it's just part of that being a weeder and the weeded funk. I'm going to go in for one more sip. Oh, man. No, really good. The oak is the main event, though, of this whole pour. The oak in this, it's almost gosh, it's not like a log cabin oak, but it's got a mustiness to it. It's got a heft to it. And it's not a stereotypical oak that I get on other, ultra aged products. But in that way, I guess that's what makes it really balanced and delightful there. So let's get into the scores. Oh, finish, 2 thumbs up as well. It's a really good pour. So at the end, how did it net out? Flavors, I gave it a 90. I guess that front of the palate, it doesn't give a whole lot of flavor initially. That's where it lost some of its points there to bring it down to that 90. Experience, 92. Mouthfeel would be the thing that kind of held it back from getting any higher. And then value, hey, MSRP is how I got this one, and that's how I'm going to judge it. That is controversial, I know, but I am going to give it the full points there. I'm not going to judge it based on what happened on secondary, nor based on what I didn't pay for it myself, and we'll get into that shortly. So final score at the end of that comes to a 92 out of 100. All time out of 170 bottles scored. This, though it is tied amongst some other whiskeys that scored 92, the score of a 92 does rank 5th out of 170. And that'll bring up the question later of, well, what are those 4 bottles then that are above this particular bottle? We'll get into that. But very, very good pour. Now, it is a 92. We've seen things score in the 90s before on this channel, seen things that cost $80, $90, $100 score this high as well. So it doesn't need to be ultra expensive to be batting this high. So that's something to keep in mind when I then get the question, what would I pay to have a bottle of this again, now that I have the last ounce in my fingers? I came up with the answer $350. Now, if I saw it at a store or had the opportunity to pay $350 for it, I would do so. I think $350 is the most that I ever have paid in cash of any sort for a bottle of whiskey. I've been trying to think if I paid any more for anything else. But no, I don't think so. I think 300 might be my most. We're getting into that era where I got like the Kentucky Owl Batch 9 is the one that I'm thinking of, was probably the most expensive bottle of whiskey that I've had that I paid actual cash for and everything. So when I was thinking about it, at the opportunity for 350, 350 is high for me still, but if I had the chance to have it again, I think I would do it as much as 350. That is completely a moot point, because living in the real world, the last time I saw it on secondary, this was up there for $1,600 for one of the latest expressions, not just the 2019, but one of the later expressions of the recent years. And the last store that I saw it at was $2,000, and that had quite a bit of dust on top of it. So kind of understanding going into this that the chances of me even getting a bottle of this maybe ever again might be slim. We are talking lottery situation, some type of crazy store situation where I get the chance to pull this one. This might be the last time I sample this, unless, somebody else sends me a sample of a later year or something like that. But the last time I probably have a bottle myself, and the last time that I can provide samples for other people to try it. So unfortunately, the club is closed on that one. That's a frowny face, but still got this half ounce left. Now, in terms of other bottles that have scored higher than this, so, if I'm saying that this is essentially in my personal top 5, at least as far as since I've been able to score whiskeys, so there might be things that just fell off my shelf before I had a chance to actually score them using the scoring system that we use today. But the ones that do rate higher are the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend, specifically the Batch 28. Oh my gosh, I love that pour so much. Internal thank yous to a special whiskey friend who put that one in my life. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch 10. It's the pirate bottle that's sitting down here, though frankly, this one's getting shared away very shortly as well. But that is an amazing bottle. One of the best things that I've ever tried. Another one that's very near and dear to my heart that I talk about all the time is the Bardstown Discovery Batch 3. And then the last one, giving another shout out to Bardstown, but the Chateau de l'Abad Batch 1. Those are the 4 that I do have higher than this one. And keeping in mind kind of the price ranges of all of those, depending on when they were acquired. But each of those would have been 200 or less. So once again, don't have to go to secondary to get these amazing pours. You just got to get them in their time and appreciate them while they're here and say goodbye to them when they're gone and hope for luck in another time. But I won't overreach just to get another bottle of this and to have it on my shelf as a trophy. No, got to share it out when that time comes. And hopefully everyone that's got the sample of this, appreciates it. I'm sure they do. So that concludes my thoughts on the William Larue Weller. In general, as we go through this, it's really, really good whiskey, but is it worth paying secondary for? You do you on how you want to do the money, but man, I think there's just other fun things out there that we can chase that are going to score in the 90s from time to time, and they won't break the budget either. Essentially, I don't know, let things happen rather than force things to happen, I guess is my philosophy in whiskey. So let me know what you think of this pour and what would you pay for it if you had the chance to acquire it. Curious as well. Well, thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again.